In the freezing dawn of Tudor England, a pig farmer rises from his straw bed to face mud, cold, and the constant demands of his animals, yet finds a strange contentment in a life most would call unbearable. How could such a harsh existence breed happiness? Historians agree pig farmers in Tudor England had literally the worst job in human history. While nobles slept on feather beds behind curtained four-posters, Tudor pig keepers woke up covered in mud, straw, and things I'd rather not mention. And yet, according to royal records, these people were actually happy. The king's own chroniclers noted that pig farmers whistled while they worked, sang while they slopped, and generally seemed more content than the wealthy merchants who could afford actual baths. Either Tudor pig farmers were clinically insane, or they knew something about life that we've completely forgotten. Okay, tonight it's Tudor England. But wait, are you comfortable? I mean, properly comfortable. Fluff those pillows. Grab your blanket. You're going to be here a while. The chill hits you first, like daggers slicing through your lungs. Even before your eyes snap open, your body knows something's wrong. The damp straw underneath you has worked its way through your threadbare. Ah, yes, the pigs. Always the pigs. You sit up, wincing as your back protests. Your knees crack like kindling as you stand, and for a moment you sway, dizzy from hunger. The last proper meal was yesterday at midday, and even that was just a hunk of brown bread and some turnip pottage. January is always the hardest month. The winter stores are running low, and it'll be months before the new crops come in. You pull on your leather boots, stiff with cold, and reach for your woolen cap. No Tudor farmer would go outside bareheaded, not even to check on the pigs. It's not just about keeping warm, going hatless was considered borderline indecent. Besides, your head is basically one giant bald spot these days, with just a fringe of gray hair around the edges. The cold would go straight to your brain without protection. I'll get the fire going, Eleanor says, sitting up and reaching for her kirtle, the basic dress that Tudor women wore. Over it, she'll put her bodice and apron before the day. Father, look, William points to one of the sows, Mabel, your best breeder. She's bleeding. You lean over the pen wall, heart sinking. Sure enough, there's blood on Mabel's hind leg, and she's favoring it, keeping weight off. Damn, you mutter, forgetting to mind your language around the boy. Something's cut her, probably a nail sticking out somewhere. This is a serious problem. In an age before antibiotics, even a small wound can fester and kill a valuable animal. And Mabel is very valuable indeed, worth almost as much as your cottage itself. What do we do? William asks, wide-eyed. We'll need to clean it, you say, calculating quickly. Get the small rope from the hook by the door. While William runs to fetch the rope, you climb over the pen wall, sinking ankle-deep in muck. Mabel eyes you suspiciously. Though somewhat domesticated, these pigs are still half wild and can be dangerous when injured or frightened. Easy, girl, you murmur, approaching slowly with your hand outstretched. Easy now. When William returns with the rope, you fashion a quick snare, and with a deftness born of long practice, loop it around Mabel's snout. She squeals in protest, but the snare keeps her from biting as you examine the wound. It's a nasty gash, probably from a broken board with a nail or splinter. These hog bogs require constant maintenance, but wood is expensive, and you've been patching rather than replacing. Hold her steady, you tell William, who grabs the rope with both hands, planting his feet. From your belt pouch, you take a small jar of salve, a mixture of honey, which prevents infection, and comfrey, which speeds healing. Eleanor makes it each summer when the herbs are fresh, storing it in clay pots for the winter. It's one of many home remedies that Tudor farmers rely on, having no access to doctors or apothecaries except in dire emergencies. Mabel screams when you apply the salve, a sound so human-like it raises goosebumps on your arms. The other pigs grow agitated, rushing around the pen and adding their voices to the unholy chorus. Almost done, you assure the pig, though of course she doesn't understand. You wrap a strip of linen around her leg, tying it securely. It won't stay on long. Pigs are too clever and determined for that, but it might keep the wound clean for a few crucial hours. Will she be all right? William asks as you climb back over the wall, your boots now twice as heavy with mud. If God wills it, you reply, the standard Tudor answer to any question about the future. In truth, you've done all you can. The rest is indeed up to God or luck or whatever forces govern the lives of Tudor pig farmers. As you secure the gate, you notice the first proper light of dawn breaking over the fields. The monastery bells ring out prime, the first canonical hour of the day, roughly 6 a.m. Your day has officially begun, though you've already been working for half an hour. We need to fix that pen today, you tell William as you head back to the cottage for a meager breakfast. Can't risk losing Mabel. The boy nods seriously. At 9, he already understands the precariousness of your existence. One dead sow could mean the difference between surviving the winter and starving. Back at the cottage, Eleanor has the fire blazing, its warm light turning the humble space almost cozy. Agnes is grinding grain in a small hand corn for the day's bread, while little Mary plays with a corn dolly on the floor. Mabel's hurt leg, you inform Eleanor as you enter. Used some of the honey salve. She nods, not looking up from the pot she's stirring. Bad? Bad enough, you reply, warming your hands by the fire. Breakfast is a simple affair, a thin porridge made from oats, flavored with a precious pinch of salt. No sugar, of course, sugar is for the nobility, not for tenant farmers. You eat from wooden bowls with wooden spoons, sitting on three-legged stools around the fire. We'll need to repair the hog bog today, you tell Eleanor between mouthfuls. The south wall's rotting through. The steward's coming, she reminds you, for the quarter rent. You suppress a groan. The monastery of Winchcombe owns this land, and you pay rent quarterly, part in money, part in goods. January's payment includes one of your precious piglets, which cuts into your profits significantly. Which one will we give, you ask, though you already know the answer. The spotted male, Eleanor replies. He's the smallest. You nod. It makes sense to keep the largest, healthiest piglets for breeding or fattening, but it still stings to give away an animal you've raised from birth. As the family finishes breakfast, you outline the day's tasks. William will help you repair the hog bog. Agnes will take the sheep to pasture and gather kindling. Eleanor will work on spinning wool, a vital secondary income for the household. Little Mary is still too young for serious work, though she'll help Eleanor by carding wool. And after the hog bog is fixed, you continue, we need to check the forest edge for fallen branches. We're low on firewood. Technically, the forest belongs to the monastery, too, and taking timber is forbidden. But fallen branches are generally overlooked, especially for a tenant in good standing. Still, you'll send William rather than going yourself. A child is more likely to receive mercy if caught. As you speak, there's a knock at the door, a rare enough occurrence to silence the whole family. Eleanor rises to answer it, smoothing her kirtle nervously. The door opens to reveal Brother Thomas, a young monk from the monastery who serves as assistant to the steward. His brown habit is clean and neat, a stark contrast to your mud-spattered clothing. Good morrow, Mistress Fletcher, he says politely, though his nose wrinkles slightly at the cottage's smoky interior and unwashed occupants. Brother Thomas, Eleanor curtsies. We weren't expecting the steward until afternoon. Steward Blackwell has been delayed at the miller's, Brother Thomas explains. He sent me to inform you that he'll come tomorrow instead. You feel a wave of relief. One more day to prepare the piglet for transfer and to scrape together the coin portion of your rent. Thank you for the message, you say, rising from your stool. Will you take some ale before you go? It's the polite thing to offer, though your ale stores are precious. Ale is safer to drink than water from the communal well, which is often contaminated. Brother Thomas shakes his head. I must return to the monastery for terse prayers. That would be the third canonical hour, around 9 a.m., but I'd been instructed to tell you that the abbot is pleased with your pig enterprise. It seems your methods of breeding are producing hardier stock than some other tenants. This unexpected praise makes you stand a little straighter. The abbot's approval could mean first choice of land when new plots become available or perhaps a reduction in rent. We're grateful for His Grace's notice, you reply, trying not to sound too eager. Please convey our thanks. After Brother Thomas departs, the family exchanges excited glances. Recognition from the monastery is rare and valuable. Does this mean we can keep the spotted piglet? William asks hopefully. No, you sigh. Rent is rent, but perhaps next quarter we might negotiate better terms. With breakfast finished and the unexpected visit concluded, it's time to begin the day's labor in earnest. You check the position of the sun. It's climbing toward mid-morning. Let's get to that hog bog, you tell William, reaching for your tools, a hammer, some salvaged nails, and a saw that's seen better days. The Tudor day follows the rhythm of light and dark, the needs of animals, and the ever-present bells of the monastery marking the canonical hours. There's no weekend to look forward to, though Sunday brings a pause for church and perhaps a village gathering afterward. Work is constant, interrupted only by illness, whether too severe to venture out, or holy days, of which there are many in the Catholic calendar of 1536. As you and William head back out into the crisp January morning, you glance up at the monastery on the hill overlooking your small farm. Built of stone with glass windows and slate roofs, it stands in stark contrast to your humble dwelling. The monks live lives of relative comfort, with regular meals and warm private cells to sleep in. But as you look at your son, healthy despite the hardships, already skilled with animals and tools, and think of your wife and daughters in the cottage, you feel a peculiar sense of satisfaction. Your life is hard, yes, but it's yours in a way that few Tudor lives are. The pigs are your responsibility, your livelihood, and in some ways your partners in survival. Come on, lad, you say to William, clapping him on the shoulder. Those pigs won't wait all day. And with that, you turn your attention to the damaged hog bog, already planning how to stretch your limited supply of timber and nails to make repairs that will last through the coming spring. This is the daily reality of the Tudor pig farmer: constant work, constant worry, but also a deep connection to the land, the animals, and the ancient rhythms of rural life that have sustained humanity for centuries. The broken board in the hog bog isn't just a problem, it's a potential disaster. You examine the damage more carefully now, kneeling in the muck to get a better view. The southern wall has rotted where rainwater collects against it. A jagged piece of wood juts out, precisely at pig leg height, explaining poor Mabel's injury. Hand me the hammer, Will, you say, pointing to where the nail needs to be removed. William passes you the tool, a crude iron hammerhead attached to a wooden handle with leather straps. Like most Tudor tools, it's handmade, expensive, and passed down through generations. Your father used the same hammer, and his father before him. Why don't we just build a new pen? William asks, watching you struggle with the rusty nail. This one's falling apart. You laugh, but there's no humor in it. With what, lad? Magic timber that grows overnight? The boy looks down, embarrassed. You immediately regret your sharpness. Look, you say more gently, a new hog bog would need at least 20 good boards. That's half a tree. We'd need the abbot's permission to fell a tree that size. Plus, we'd have to pay the woodcutter, the sawyer. You trail off, seeing he understands. We make do with what we have, William finishes for you. It's practically the family motto. Tudor England runs on wood. It's the primary building material, the main fuel source, and the basis for countless tools and implements. But it's also strictly controlled. The great forests that once covered the country are dwindling, with the best timber reserved for shipbuilding and construction for the wealthy. For a tenant farmer to build even a simple hog bog requires either substantial payment or permission from the landowner. Here, you say, handing William a small knife. Whittle down these edges while I pull the nails. Sharp wood is what got Mabel in this state. As the boy sets to work smoothing the splintered edges, you extract the rusted nails carefully. Each one is precious iron is expensive, and you'll straighten and reuse every nail you remove. The January sun climbs higher, providing little warmth but better light for your work. The monastery bells ring out for sext, marking midday. You've been working on the hog bog for hours, and your back protests every movement, but the repairs are coming along. Thomas, Eleanor's voice calls from the direction of the cottage. Visitors. You straighten up, wincing, and peer over the hog bog wall. Coming up the muddy track toward your farm are two figures, a man and a woman, leading a small spotted pig on a rope. Saints preserve us, you mutter. It's Henry and Joan Cook. The Cooks are your nearest neighbors, fellow pig farmers who rent from the monastery. Henry is a square-built man with a perpetual scowl, and Joan is thin and sharp-featured, known for her cutting gossip. They're not exactly friends, but in a small farming community, everyone depends on everyone else to some degree. Master Fletcher, Henry calls, raising a hand in greeting. God give you good day. And to you, you reply, climbing out of the hog bog. You're covered in mud and pig muck, hardly presentable for visitors, but they won't expect otherwise. What brings you this way? Henry gestures to the pig. Brought this young boar for your inspection. Joan's brother raised him over Windrush Way. Thought he might make good breeding stock for both our farms. You approach the animal with interest. It's a young boar, about 8 months old, with unusual spotted markings and a sturdy frame. Good breeding stock is always valuable, and introducing new bloodlines prevents the problems that come from inbreeding. He's a fine-looking animal, you admit, squatting to examine the boar more closely. Strong haunches, good teeth. His mother had litters of 12, Joan offers, clearly proud of the connection. All healthy. What's the arrangement you're thinking, you ask cautiously. Nothing comes free in Tudor England, especially not a healthy young boar. Henry scratches his beard. Thought we might share him. I keep him through spring and summer, you take him fall and winter. Split the stud fees if others want to use him. It's a good offer. Your current boar, Brutus, is getting old and increasingly dangerous. A new breeding male with proven lineage could significantly improve your pig enterprise. And the cost, you ask, already mentally calculating what you can afford. 4 shillings, Henry says. 2 from you, 2 from me. You try not to wince visibly. 4 shillings is a substantial sum, about what you'd earn for 2 fat pigs at market. But split between 2 farms, and considering the potential return. I'll need to discuss it with Eleanor, you say, which is both true and a way to avoid committing immediately. But I'm interested. Henry nods, understanding the caution. No rush. We thought you might want to see him before the Candlemas Fair. Joan's brother is bringing more stock. The mention of Candlemas, February 2nd, just weeks away, reminds you of the turning wheel of the year. Candlemas marks the midpoint between winter solstice and spring equinox. It's when the breeding season for pigs traditionally begins, in preparation for fall births. Will you take some ale before you go? You offer, following the custom of hospitality. Gladly, Henry accepts. It's thirsty work walking in this cold. The 4 of you, William, Henry, and Joan, head toward the cottage, leaving the young boar tied to a post near the hog bog. You notice William eyeing the animal with interest. He's a beauty, isn't he? The boy whispers. That he is, you agree, and half the price of what we'd pay at the Candlemas Fair. Inside the cottage, Eleanor has been busy. The morning's baking is done, with 2 small loaves of coarse brown bread cooling near the fire. The smell fills the single-room dwelling, making your stomach growl despite the modest breakfast. Master and Mistress Cook, Eleanor greets them, wiping her hands on her apron. Welcome to our home. The standard greeting masks the quick assessment she's making. Eleanor knows as well as you do that unexpected visitors usually want something, whether it's to borrow a tool, offer a trade, or simply gather information to be shared later with others. They've brought a young boar for us to consider, you explain, for breeding. Eleanor's eyebrows lift slightly, the only indication of her surprise. She knows as well as you do that you don't have 2 shillings to spare, especially with the quarter rent due. A fine opportunity, she says diplomatically, reaching for a jug of ale and wooden cups. Agnes, fetch the bread. Your eldest daughter, who has returned from taking the sheep to pasture, cuts thick slices of the fresh bread. It's a sign of hospitality to offer food and drink to visitors, but also a subtle statement of prosperity. See, the gesture says, we have enough to share. The cooks settle on stools near the fire, accepting the ale and bread with thanks. Tudor's social visits have their own rhythm, first pleasantries and refreshments, then gradually working around to the real purpose. The monastery's new bell sounds fine, Henry comments after his first sip of ale. Heard it ring for terce all the way from our place. Brother Thomas says it was cast in Bristol, you reply. Cost a small fortune. This kind of small talk continues for a few minutes, comments on the weather, the condition of the roads, news from the village, but eventually, as you knew it would, the conversation turns to pigs. Saw Steward Blackwell yesterday, Henry mentions casually. Says the monastery is planning to expand their pig herd come spring. This is interesting news. The monastery's agricultural decisions affect all the tenant farmers in the area. Did he say why, you ask, equally casual, though your mind is racing with implications. Henry leans forward slightly. Word is the king's commissioners have been asking questions about the monastery's assets. Abbot Montague wants to show how profitable the estates are. A chill that has nothing to do with the January weather runs down your spine. Everyone has heard rumors about King Henry VIII's interest in monastery wealth. Since breaking with Rome and declaring himself head of the church in England, the king has been eyeing monastic properties with undisguised greed. Surely Winchcombe is safe, Eleanor interjects, her voice carefully neutral. Connections didn't save the smaller houses, Joan Cook sniffs dismissively. Did you hear about Norton Priory? Dissolved last month. All the monks sent away, lands seized by the crown. The dissolution of the monasteries is a frightening prospect for tenant farmers like you. If Winchcombe Abbey were to be dissolved, its lands, including your farm, would be sold to whoever could pay the king's price. New landlords often meant new rents, new rules, and sometimes eviction for current tenants. It won't come to that, you say firmly, as much to reassure yourself as the others. Winchcombe is an ancient foundation, wealthy and respected. The conversation shifts to safer topics, the upcoming Candlemas Fair, the price of wool, a scandal involving the miller's daughter. But the shadow of uncertainty remains. After the cooks depart, taking their young boar with a promise to return for your answer before the fair, Eleanor turns to you with worried eyes. Can we afford it, Thomas? 2 shillings for half a boar. You sigh, running a hand through your thinning hair. Not easily. But if the monastery truly is trying to show profit, they'll favor tenants with strong pig enterprises. And if the monastery is dissolved, she asks, voicing the fear you both share. Then we pray the new landlord values good pig farmers, you reply grimly. These are uncertain times in England. The religious reforms have brought changes that ripple through every level of society. Old certainties, the authority of the Pope, the permanence of the monasteries, the fixed order of things, are crumbling like the rotted wood of your hog bog. Back to work, you tell William, who has been listening wide-eyed to the adult conversation. That pen won't fix itself. Outside, the January day has reached its brief peak of brightness. You squint up at the sun, calculating the hours of daylight remaining. Winter days are short, and there's still much to do before darkness falls. As you and William return to the hog bog repairs, you notice Mabel limping around the pen, the linen bandage long since trampled into the muck. But she's moving, eating, showing no signs of fever. The wound appears to be healing. She'll be all right, William says confidently, following your gaze. Seems so, you agree, relieved. A healthy sow is essential to your livelihood. The repair work continues through the afternoon. You replace the worst of the rotted boards with pieces salvaged from an old cart that broke beyond repair last harvest. It's not perfect, but it will hold. William proves surprisingly skilled with hammer and nail, his small hands more nimble than your work-roughened ones. You feel a surge of pride watching him work, followed by a pang of regret. At his age, you were still playing with wooden swords and chasing butterflies. The dissolution of the monasteries isn't the only change in Tudor England. Childhood itself seems to be shrinking, compressed by economic necessity. Father, William says suddenly, breaking into your thoughts. If we get the new boar, can I be in charge of him? The question takes you by surprise. In charge of feeding him and training him to come when called, the boy explains eagerly. John Parker says his father's boar comes to a whistle. John Parker is the son of a relatively wealthy farmer who owns his land outright rather than renting. The comparison makes you uncomfortable, but you hide it with a smile. We'll see, you tell him, the universal parent's answer across time. First, we need to decide if we can afford him. As you work, you keep one eye on the sky. The clear January day is giving way to clouds rolling in from the west, possibly snow. Storm coming, you mutter, more to yourself than William. Finish up that corner, and we'll head in. The boy nods, hammering the last nail with careful concentration. He's learning the pig farmer's perpetual vigilance, watching the weather, the animals, the subtle signs that spell the difference between prosperity and disaster. With the hog bog repairs complete, or at least complete enough to prevent further injuries, you survey your small pig empire with critical eyes. The sows are healthy, the piglets growing well. Even old Brutus, isolated in his own small pen, seems content, snuffling through a pile of rotting vegetables. Tudor pig farming is a surprisingly sophisticated enterprise. You know when to breed, when to separate the piglets for weaning, how to prevent disease, and how to maximize the animal's natural behaviors. In autumn, you'll drive the pigs into the forest for pannage, allowing them to forage for acorns and beech nuts, which produces the sweetest pork. All of this knowledge has been passed down through generations, refined by experience. Check the water trough, you instruct William. Make sure it's not frozen. Water is essential for pigs, and in January, keeping it from freezing is a constant battle. You've developed a system of rotating troughs, bringing one inside to thaw by the fire while another is in use. As William attends to the water, you collect the tools, carefully counting the precious nails and storing them in a leather pouch. Nothing goes to waste in a Tudor farm, not food scraps, not animal parts, not even bent nails, which can be straightened and reused. The monastery bells ring out for none, marking mid-afternoon. The sound carries clearly across the winter landscape, a reminder of the presence that dominates your life both spiritually and economically. You glance up at the imposing stone buildings on the hill. What would happen to your farm, your family, your pigs, if King Henry's commissioners decided Winchcombe Abbey should be dissolved? The thought sends another chill through you, colder than the January air. William, you call, making a sudden decision. We're going to the village. The boy looks up, surprised. Now. But the storm. Before the storm, you correct him. We need to hear what people are saying about the king's commissioners. Information is a precious commodity in Tudor England, especially for those who can't read. News travels by word of mouth, often distorted in the telling. The village alehouse is the closest thing to a news source available to ordinary people like you. Can I come too? William asks eagerly. You consider. The village alehouse isn't really a place for children, but neither is it the raucous tavern of later centuries. It's simply the house of a woman licensed to brew and sell ale, where locals gather to drink and talk. Yes, you decide, but stay close and mind your manners. You inform Eleanor of your plan, and she nods, understanding the importance of gathering information. Agnes will stay to help with the evening meal preparation, and little Mary is already napping on her straw pallet, worn out from a morning of helping her mother. Be back before dark, Eleanor warns. The storm looks bad. You promise, though you both know dark falls early in January, and time is an imprecise concept in a world without clocks. The walk to the village takes about 20 minutes along a muddy track that serves as the main road. William trots beside you, excited by the unexpected excursion. The village itself is a modest cluster of cottages similar to your own, with the parish church at its center. Unlike your isolated farm, these dwellings are packed closely together, with small garden plots behind them. The alehouse is simply the home of Widow Simmons, marked only by a painted wooden nail stake outside the door. Inside, the single room is similar to your cottage but larger, with several trestle tables and benches. A fire roars in the central hearth, and the air is thick with the yeasty smell of ale and the smoke from the fire. Several men are already gathered, drinking from wooden cups and talking in low voices. They look up as you enter, nodding in greeting. You recognize most of them, other tenant farmers, the village blacksmith, a couple of laborers who work on the larger farms. Fletcher, the blacksmith, a burly man named Tanner, acknowledges you. Don't often see you this time of day. The hog bog needed fixing, you explain, settling on a bench near the fire. Thought we deserved some ale after. It's a plausible excuse, and no one questions it. William sits beside you, eyes wide as he takes in the rare sight of men relaxing, talking freely. Widow Simmons brings you ale without being asked, a thin, sour brew, but safer than water and warming on a cold day. William gets a smaller cup, diluted with water. You listen more than talk, gathering scraps of information. The conversation flows around topics of common interest, the weather, crops, livestock prices. But eventually, it turns to the subject you came to hear about. My cousin works at Hyley's Abbey, one of the laborers is saying. Says the king's men were there last week, making inventory of everything, counting candlesticks, weighing silver. Hyley's Abbey is less than 10 miles from Winchcombe, famous for its relic of the Holy Blood. If the king's commissioners are investigating there, Winchcombe can't be far behind. What happens to the tenants if an abbey is dissolved? Someone asks, voicing the question burning in your mind. The blacksmith shrugs his massive shoulders. Depends who buys the land. Some new lords keep the old tenants, just raise the rents. Others clear the land for sheep. Clearing land for sheep is a frightening prospect. It's happening across England, landowners evicting tenant farmers to raise sheep, which require fewer workers and produce valuable wool. Entire villages have been emptied, the people forced to become wandering beggars or to seek work in the growing towns. Won't happen here, another man insists. Abbot Montague has the king's favor. You're not so sure, but you keep your doubts to yourself. Tudor England is increasingly dangerous for those who speak their minds too freely, especially on matters touching the king's policies. The conversation shifts again, turning to more immediate concerns, a wolf reportedly seen near the sheep pastures, the upcoming Candlemas Fair, a dispute over boundary markers between two farms. You finish your ale, drop a halfpenny on the table for Widow Simmons, and nudge William. Time to go. Your mother will worry. Outside, the threatening clouds have darkened further, and the wind has picked up, carrying the smell of snow. You pull your woolen cap lower over your ears and hurry William along the muddy track toward home. What will happen to us if the monastery is dissolved? The boy asks suddenly, showing an understanding that surprises you. You consider how to answer. Tudor parents don't generally shield their children from harsh realities, life is too precarious for that. But neither do you want to frighten him unnecessarily. We'll survive, you say finally. People always need pigs, and we're good pig farmers. It's the most honest answer you can give. The future is uncertain, but your skill with pigs, your knowledge passed down through generations, is something no king's commissioner can inventory or seize. As you crest the small rise that marks the boundary of your farm, you see the hog bog in the distance, the newly repaired wall standing firm. Beyond it, smoke rises from the cottage chimney, promising warmth and Eleanor's cooking. Whatever changes come to Tudor England, whatever shifts in religion or politics or land ownership, this moment, returning home at dusk to your family and your pigs, is a constant. It's not an easy life, but it's one you understand, one you've mastered through years of hard-won experience. Race you home, William challenges suddenly, taking off down the muddy track with the boundless energy of childhood. You laugh and follow at a more dignified pace, your mind still turning over the information gathered at the alehouse, but your heart lightening at the sight of home. The first snowflakes begin to fall as you reach the cottage door. The snow falls harder as you step inside the cottage, a blast of warm air greeting you like an old friend. Eleanor looks up from the hearth, where she's stirring a pot of something that smells better than anything has a right to in January. Cut it close, she remarks, eyeing the snow clinging to your cap and shoulders. Another hour, and you'd have been lost in it. We went to the alehouse, William announces proudly before you can answer, shaking snow from his hair like a wet dog. Father had ale, and I had some too. Eleanor raises an eyebrow at you, but there's no real censure in her look. In Tudor England, even children drink weak ale, it's safer than water. And what news from the village, she asks, returning to her stirring. You hang your cap on a peg by the door, moving closer to the fire's warmth. The king's commissioners were at Hyley's Abbey last week, making inventory. Eleanor's hand pauses briefly over the pot. She understands the implications as well as you do. They'll come here next, I expect, she says quietly, mindful of the children. Little Mary is playing in the corner with a rag doll, but Agnes, at 12, is old enough to understand adult concerns. She watches you both with solemn eyes from where she's setting out wooden bowls for the evening meal. Maybe, you concede. Tanner thinks the Abbott's Court connections might protect Winchcombe. The fire crackles, sending up a shower of sparks. Outside, the wind picks up, rattling the oiled parchment that covers your single window. What's for supper, you ask, changing the subject to something more immediate. Smells good. Pottage, Eleanor answers, with the last of the salt pork and some dried herbs. Pottage is the staple food of Tudor England, a thick soup or stew made from whatever's available. In summer and autumn, it might be filled with fresh vegetables from the garden. In January, it's mostly root vegetables that store well: turnips, carrots, parsnips, enhanced with whatever meat or fat can be spared. The salt pork is from a pig slaughtered at Martinmas, November 11th, the traditional time for butchering. The meat has been preserved in salt, hanging from the cottage rafters through the winter. It's a luxury to use some in January, when fresh meat is scarce. William, fetch more wood for the fire, Eleanor instructs. Agnes, finish setting the table. Tudor meal preparation is a family affair, with each member assigned tasks according to age and ability. Even 4-year-old Mary helps by carrying spoons, though you notice she's currently using one to give her doll an imaginary taste of pottage. As William goes out to the small woodpile by the door, you lower your voice. Henry Cook came by with a young boar, offering to share ownership for 2 shillings. Eleanor's eyes widen slightly. 2 shillings, with the quarter rent due? I know, you sigh, but our Brutus is getting old and mean. Won't be good for breeding much longer. She considers this, adding a pinch of precious dried herbs to the pottage. Herbs are not just for flavor in Tudor cooking, they're believed to balance the humors of the body, according to the medical theories of the time. If we sell the spotted male piglet to the monastery instead of giving it as rent, she begins. They might accept it, you finish her thought, but they'd want more coin to make up the difference. This kind of calculation is constant in Tudor economics, weighing options, calculating relative values, looking for small advantages within the rigid social and economic structures. William returns with an armful of wood, his face red with cold. It's really coming down now, he reports excitedly. Can't even see the hog bog from the door. A heavy snowfall brings mixed feelings. It means no work can be done outside, a welcome respite for aching muscles, but it also means the animals must be well sheltered, water sources might freeze, and precious firewood is consumed faster. We'd best check the pigs again after supper, you decide. Make sure they're settled for the night. Eleanor nods, lifting the iron pot from its hook over the fire. Supper's ready. The family gathers around the small table, really just a board laid across 2 barrels. Grace is said, thanking God for the food. Even in these lean winter months, religious observance is woven into every aspect of Tudor life, with prayers marking meals, beginnings, and endings of work, and significant moments throughout the day. The pottage is served into wooden bowls, steam rising invitingly in the firelit cottage. Each family member has their own spoon. Yours is wooden, worn smooth from years of use. Eleanor's is pewter, a wedding gift from her father, who was slightly higher on the social ladder than your family. The children use wooden spoons like yours. Careful, it's hot, Eleanor warns Mary, helping the little girl with her bowl. The first spoonful is heaven, rich with turnips and carrots from your garden, thickened with a handful of oats, and flavored with small pieces of salt pork that make the humble vegetables taste like a feast. Good, you murmur appreciatively, and Eleanor's face softens with pride. In the constant struggle of Tudor life, a well-prepared meal is no small achievement. The family eats in relative silence, focused on the food. Mealtime conversation is less common than in modern times. Eating is serious business when food is this precious. The cook's new boar has spots like a cow, William says after a while, breaking the silence. And he's bigger than our piglets, even though he's not full grown. Did Joan Cook say anything else about the monastery? Eleanor asks, skillfully redirecting the conversation to the information she knows you must have gathered. You shrug, mopping up the last of your pottage with a piece of brown bread. Nothing we hadn't heard already. Norton Priory dissolved, monks sent away, the usual rumors. Agnes looks up from her bowl. Martha Tanner says they're going to close all the monasteries and make everyone be Protestant. You frown slightly. Children repeating adult talk can be dangerous in these religiously volatile times. Martha Tanner should mind her tongue, and so should you. What the king does with the monasteries is his affair, not ours. But if Winchcombe Abbey closes, what happens to us? Agnes persists, showing the same perceptiveness William had earlier. Do we lose our farm? Eleanor reaches over to smooth Agnes's hair. That's not going to happen. And even if it did, we'd find a way. We always do. It's the same reassurance you gave William, and like him, Agnes seems satisfied for now. Children in Tudor times learn early to live with uncertainty. After the meal, bowls are wiped clean with the last of the bread, no food is wasted, and stacked on the small shelf that serves as a cupboard. There's no sink, no running water. Dishes are properly washed only occasionally, with sand or ash as scrubbing agents. I'll check the pigs, you say, reaching for your cap again. William, come with me. We'll need the lantern. The lantern is a simple affair, a candle set inside a perforated metal container with a handle. Candles, made from tallow animal fat, are expensive. You use them sparingly, mostly relying on the fire's light inside the cottage. But for night chores, the lantern is essential. Eleanor helps you light it, using a splinter of wood ignited from the fire. The flame catches, casting a warm glow through the lantern's tiny holes. Don't be long, she warns. The snow's getting worse. You and William wrap yourselves as best you can against the cold, woolen caps pulled low, an extra layer of clothing, leather boots tightly laced. Even so, the blast of freezing air as you open the door makes you both gasp. The snow is falling in thick, swirling sheets, already ankle-deep and building quickly. The familiar landscape of your small farm is transformed, softened, and muffled under the white blanket. Stay close, you tell William, holding the lantern high. Its light makes a small golden sphere in the darkness, snow dancing through the beam like spirits. The hog bog is only about 50 paces from the cottage, but tonight it feels like a journey to the next county. The wind cuts through your clothing, and the snow makes the footing treacherous. I can't see anything, William shouts over the wind, his hand clutching your jerkin. Just a bit further, you encourage him, though you're having trouble seeing the path yourself. The familiar walk to the hog bog, which you could do blindfolded in normal conditions, has become a challenge. Finally, the dark bulk of the pig enclosure emerges from the swirling snow. You feel a rush of relief, followed immediately by concern. The pigs are hardy animals, but a blizzard like this is dangerous even for them. The covered portion of the hog bog provides some shelter, but you need to make sure all the animals are inside, not caught in the open part of the pen. Hold the lantern, you instruct William, passing him the light as you climb over the wall into the pen. The pigs are huddled together in the covered area, their body heat creating a relatively warm space. You count them by lantern light, 2 sows, 11 piglets, all present. The sows look up at you with what seems like reproach for disturbing them. They're fine, you call to William. All inside. You're about to climb back over the wall when a sound stops you, a faint, distressed squeal coming from the far corner of the pen, away from the sheltered area. What was that? William asks, lifting the lantern higher. You listen intently, and there it is again, the unmistakable sound of a pig in distress. Cursing under your breath, you wade through the snow-covered muck toward the sound. In the corner, half buried in rapidly accumulating snow, is one of the smaller piglets, separated from the litter. It's shivering violently, making pitiful noises that are mostly swallowed by the howling wind. Fool animal, you mutter, scooping up the piglet. It's icy cold, its tiny body rigid with chill. Must have been sleeping apart when the storm hit. The piglet weighs only a few pounds, but carrying it through the snow drifts back to the sheltered area is harder than you expected. Your boots slip in the hidden muck beneath the snow, and the wind seems determined to push you backward. Finally, you reach the covered portion of the hog bog. The other pigs shift reluctantly, making room as you place the shivering piglet among them. It immediately burrows toward the warmth of its mother. Will it live? William asks anxiously as you climb back over the wall, breathing hard from the exertion. You brush snow from your jerkin, considering. If it warms up quickly enough. We'll check in the morning. The loss of a single piglet wouldn't be devastating to your enterprise, but every animal represents future food or income. Besides, there's a basic bond between a farmer and his livestock, not sentimental in the modern sense, but a recognition of mutual dependence. We should check Brutus, too, William reminds you, holding the lantern toward the smaller pen where the boar is kept separate. You nod, though you're cold and eager to return to the cottage. The boar's pen is another 20 paces through the worsening storm. Brutus, unlike the piglets, needs no help. The massive boar has created a nest of straw in his shelter and barely acknowledges your presence when you peer over the wall. His breath steams in the cold air, but he seems comfortable enough. Right, that's all of them, you say, taking the lantern back from William. Now, let's get inside before we freeze like that piglet nearly did. The return journey to the cottage seems even longer, the wind now driving the snow directly into your faces. You keep a firm grip on William's shoulder, terrified of losing him in the white darkness. Even with the lantern, visibility is down to a few feet. When the golden glow of the cottage window finally appears through the snow, you feel a surge of relief so powerful it's almost dizzying, like a sailor sighting land after weeks at sea. That small light represents safety, warmth, family, all that stands between you and the killing cold. Eleanor opens the door as you approach, her anxious face illuminated by the fire behind her. Thank God, she murmurs as you stumble in, bringing a swirl of snow with you. The pigs are fine, you report, stamping snow from your boots. Found one piglet half frozen, but got it back with the others. William strips off his snow-covered cap and outer garments, moving directly to the fire. His face is red with cold, his hair plastered to his head with melted snow. It was an adventure, he declares, though his shivering belies the brave words. We could hardly see the hog bog, even with the lantern, he adds. Eleanor wraps a woolen blanket around his shoulders, shooting you a look that says, next time, go alone. But she knows as well as you do that in Tudor farming, children learn by doing, even in dangerous conditions. It's how you learned, and your father before you. Into dry clothes, both of you, she instructs. I've kept the cottage warm. Changing clothes in a Tudor cottage is a simple affair. There are no separate rooms for privacy, the family simply turns their backs while each member changes, a courtesy rather than true privacy. Your dry clothes are simply another set of similar garments, woolen hose, linen shirt, woolen jerkin. The materials are the same, only drier. Once changed, you settle by the fire with a fresh bowl of warmed pottage. The storm rages outside, wind howling around the cottage, and snow occasionally sifting down through the thatched roof. But inside, the fire crackles cheerfully, and the family is together and safe. If the snow keeps up, we won't be able to open the door by morning, you observe, listening to the wind. Eleanor nods, already thinking ahead to the challenges a heavy snowfall brings. We have enough food for a few days, and the pigs have shelter, and they were fed today, you assure her. They'll be hungry by tomorrow, but they won't starve if we can't reach them for a day. Tudor farmers are accustomed to planning for weather emergencies. Every winter brings storms that might trap a family indoors for days at a time. Food is stored, firewood is stacked by the door, and everyone knows how to endure the enforced idleness of a snow day. If we're snowed in tomorrow, we can work on the spinning, Eleanor says, glancing at her distaff and spindle in the corner. Spinning wool into thread is a constant task for Tudor women, providing both clothing for the family and a product to sell or barter. And I can finish carving the new spoon, you add. Small woodworking projects are saved for just such occasions, items needed by the household that can be made indoors during bad weather. The children listen to this planning with mixed feelings. A snow day means no outdoor chores, but it also means indoor tasks and the boredom of confinement. Can you tell us a story if we're snowed in? Mary asks hopefully, climbing onto your lap now that you've finished eating. Perhaps, you agree, settling her more comfortably. The one about how grandfather outsmarted the wolf? Mary nods eagerly. Tudor children's entertainment comes primarily from storytelling, family histories, folktales, and religious stories passed down orally. There are no books in your cottage, and even if there were, only Agnes has learned some basic reading at the parish church school. The evening settles into its familiar rhythm. Eleanor spins by firelight, her skilled hands drawing out wool fibers and twisting them into thread. Agnes works on a simple embroidery project, decorative stitches on a piece of linen that will eventually become a collar. William whittles a small piece of wood, trying to shape it into an animal. And Mary dozes on your lap. Outside, the storm continues unabated. Inside, the fire slowly dies down to glowing embers. It's time for bed, you say, gently shifting Mary to wake her. Let's bank the fire and get some sleep. Banking the fire is an essential nightly ritual. A Tudor household can't afford to let the fire go out completely. Fire starting is difficult and time-consuming. Instead, the embers are covered with ashes to keep them smoldering through the night, ready to be uncovered and built up again in the morning. Eleanor spreads the ashes carefully while you check that the door is securely barred. The single window is already shuttered against the night and the storm. The sleeping arrangements are simple. You and Eleanor share a straw mattress in one corner, covered with woolen blankets. The children have their own piles of straw nearby, similarly covered. In wealthier households, there might be proper bedsteads, but for a tenant farmer, this arrangement is standard. Will the monastery still expect the rent tomorrow with the snow? Agnes asks as she settles into her makeshift bed. The steward won't travel in this any more than we would, you assure her. They'll wait for the roads to clear. This small reprieve is one of the few benefits of the storm. The quarter rent is a constant pressure, and even a few days' delay can be helpful. The family performs one final ritual before sleep, prayers. Tudor religious observance is woven throughout the day, but evening prayers are particularly important. You lead, reciting the Pater Noster, Our Father, and an Ave Maria in Latin, as you were taught. Though the religious landscape of England is shifting toward English prayers under King Henry's reforms, these remain familiar. Prayer complete, the family settles for the night. The cottage is dark except for the faint red glow of the banked fire. Outside, the storm howls, but inside, wrapped in woolen blankets on beds of straw, the Fletcher family prepares for sleep. Thomas, Eleanor whispers once the children's breathing has steadied into sleep. Do you really think the monastery might be dissolved? In the darkness, you can't see her face, but you can hear the worry in her voice. It's rare for Eleanor to express fear. She's the steady center of the family, practical and resilient. I don't know, you admit quietly. The king needs money for his wars, and the monasteries are rich. But Winchcombe has powerful friends. If it happens, she begins. If it happens, we'll face it, you interrupt gently. We're good farmers. Pigs need tending whether the land belongs to a monastery or a new lord. It's the same reassurance you've given the children, and like them, Eleanor seems to accept it, at least for now. She shifts closer to you on the shared mattress, her warmth a comfort against the winter night. Sleep comes quickly after a day of physical labor. Your last conscious thought is a hope that the lost piglet survives the night, huddled with its siblings in the straw of the hog bog. In the precarious balance of Tudor farming, every animal matters, every crop counts, every day brings new challenges to overcome. As you drift into sleep, the sound of the storm gradually fades from your awareness. Tomorrow will bring its own concerns, snow to shovel, animals to feed, repairs to make, but for now, surrounded by your sleeping family in your humble cottage, you are as secure as any Tudor farmer can hope to be. The last thing you notice before sleep claims you is that the howling of the wind has taken on an almost musical quality, rising and falling like the plain chant you hear at Sunday, Massachusetts. It's oddly soothing, this wild lullaby of the winter storm, singing the Tudor pig farmer to his well-earned rest. Outside, the snow continues to fall, transforming the landscape into a white wilderness. The hog bog, the cottage, the monastery on the hill, all are slowly disappearing under the relentless accumulation, becoming mere shapes in a world turned suddenly, blindingly white. Morning comes with an eerie silence. No bird calls, no distant monastery bells, no squealing pigs demanding breakfast, just the muffled stillness that follows a heavy snowfall. You wake slowly, your body stiff from sleeping on straw that's gradually compacted through the night. Beside you, Eleanor is already stirring, her internal clock as reliable as any monastery timekeeper. It's stopped, she whispers, meaning the storm. You listen, and she's right. The howling wind that sang you to sleep has died completely, leaving behind that distinctive winter hush. The cottage is frigid, the banked fire having burned down to the faintest glow, and your breath forms clouds in the cold air. This is the reality of Tudor winter mornings, the shock of cold as you leave the relative warmth of shared blankets. "I'll get the fire up," you murmur, reluctant but resolute. It's the man's job to revive the morning fire in most Tudor households, while the woman begins preparations for the day's first meal. Sliding out from under the woolen blankets, you shiver as the cold air hits you. You sleep in your linen shirt and woolen hose. Removing more clothing for bed is an invitation to freeze in winter. Only in summer do Tudor people sometimes sleep in special nightshirts or, occasionally, nothing at all. The cottage floor is ice cold against your bare feet as you make your way to the hearth. Kneeling before the banked fire, you carefully brush away the protective layer of ashes to reveal the glowing embers beneath. They've survived the night, a small victory. You add kindling, small twigs and wood shavings saved for this purpose, and blow gently. The embers brighten, then catch the kindling with tiny, promising flames. Gradually, you add larger pieces of wood until the fire is properly alight, pushing back the morning chill. "Father," William's voice comes from his straw bed, thick with sleep. "Is it very deep, the snow?" You clarify, though you know that's what he means. "We'll find out soon enough." Eleanor is up now, too, pulling her kirtle over her linen shift. Like you, she slept partially dressed against the cold. She moves to help Agnes and Mary rise and dress while you focus on the fire. "First things first," you announce once the fire is blazing. "We need to dig out the door and check the animals." The cottage door opens inward, which proves fortunate. When you lift the wooden bar and push, it moves only a few inches before hitting a solid wall of snow. "Saints preserve us," you mutter, peering through the narrow opening. The snow has drifted against the cottage, nearly reaching the top of the door. "We'll have to dig our way out," you tell the family, who have gathered behind you to see. "William, fetch the wooden shovel." The shovel is a simple tool, carved from a single piece of wood, used primarily for moving grain, but it will serve for snow as well. Tudor tools are often multi-purpose by necessity. Metal is expensive, and specialized equipment is a luxury few farmers can afford. "I'll make breakfast while you dig," Eleanor decides, turning to the food stores kept in a wooden chest. "You'll need something hot before tackling the hog bog." While you and William take turns scraping snow away from the door, creating a narrow passage outward, Eleanor prepares a simple breakfast of oat porridge. Agnes helps, measuring the precious oats with careful attention. Even a spoonful wasted could be missed by winter's end. The digging is hard work. The snow is deep and has partially frozen during the night, forming a crust that must be broken before it can be moved. Your breath comes in great white clouds as you labor, and sweat forms under your woolen cap despite the cold. "It's like digging through stone," William complains after his turn, his small face red with exertion. "Keep at it," you encourage him. "Think of the hungry pigs." After nearly an hour of effort, you've created a passage from the door, a narrow canyon through snow that's waist-high on you and chest-high on William. The world outside is transformed, familiar landmarks hidden under smooth white drifts. The morning sun glints off the snow with painful brightness. "Look at the hog bog," William gasps, pointing. The pig enclosure is barely visible, just the top of its fence and roof showing above the snow. The path you cleared last night is completely gone, filled in by the continuing storm after you return to the cottage. "At least the covered part should have kept them dry," you say, trying to sound more confident than you feel. A night in wet conditions could mean sick pigs, or worse. "Breakfast first," Eleanor calls from the doorway. "You'll need your strength." The porridge is simple but filling, enhanced with a drizzle of precious honey from your 2 beehives. Beekeeping is another of your small enterprises, not as central as pig farming, but important for both honey and wax. Tudor sweeteners are limited, with honey being the most accessible for common people. Sugar exists, but is a luxury for the wealthy. "We'll need to clear a path to the hog bog," you tell William as you eat. "Then check on Brutus. After that, we can tackle the path to the village. We'll need supplies if this snow stays." Eleanor nods her agreement with this plan. "Agnes and I will try to clear around the cottage. Mary can help gather more firewood from the pile." This division of labor is typical. Tudor farm families function as economic units, with each member contributing according to their abilities. Even 4-year-old Mary has her tasks, simple though they may be. After breakfast, you and William bundle up as best you can for the cold work ahead, extra woolen socks inside your leather boots, woolen caps pulled low, and old cloaks wrapped tightly around your shoulders. Tudor winter clothing isn't specially designed for snow, you simply layer whatever you have, prioritizing wool for its ability to retain warmth even when wet. Remember, the pigs come first, you remind William as you head out. They haven't eaten since yesterday. The digging to the hog bog is even harder than clearing the doorway. The snow is deeper in the open farmyard, with drifts taller than you in some places. You and William take turns breaking through the crust with a wooden staff, then shoveling a narrow path forward. The sun climbs higher as you work, providing some warmth but also making the snow blindingly bright. Your eyes water from the glare, and you frequently pause to wipe them. The monks say this is what heaven looks like, William comments during one such pause, gesturing at the pristine white landscape stretching to the horizon, all white and shining. If heaven involves this much digging, I'm not sure I want to go, you reply dryly, making the boy laugh. It takes most of the morning to reach the hog bog. By the time you arrive, your arms and back are aching, and both of you are soaked with sweat despite the freezing temperature. The physical toll of Tudor life is constant, but snow adds an extra dimension of difficulty. The pigs greet your arrival with frantic squealing. They're hungry and frustrated by confinement, pressing against the fence of their enclosure as you approach. They sound healthy enough, you observe with relief. Vocal pigs are generally healthy pigs. The covered portion of the hog bog has indeed kept them dry, and their body heat, generated by a dozen animals pressed together, has created a relatively warm space. But they'd had no food or fresh water since yesterday afternoon, and their trough is empty. We need to bring food from the cottage, you tell William. I'll start clearing some of this snow from the pan while you fetch the scraps bucket. While William heads back along your newly dug path, you begin the work of clearing snow from inside the pig enclosure. The animals crowd around, hampering your efforts, curious about anything new in their environment. Back, you greedy beasts, you mutter, though without real annoyance. Their energy is a good sign after the dangerously cold night. You check each pig as you work, paying special attention to the piglet that was separated during the storm. To your relief, it seems to have recovered, nursing energetically from its mother. Pigs are surprisingly hardy animals when given basic shelter. Mabel's leg wound is also healing well, the honey salve having done its work. Tudor veterinary medicine is largely based on the same herbal remedies used for humans, adjusted for the animal's size and temperament. Experience teaches which treatments work, and this knowledge is passed down through generations. William returns with the food scraps, vegetable peelings, stale bread crusts soaked in sour milk, and the bones from last night's salt pork, picked clean but still tasty to a pig. You spread these in the cleared area, stepping back as the animals rush to eat. What about water? William asks, watching the feeding frenzy. You look at the frozen water trough thoughtfully. We'll have to break the ice and refill it. But first, let's check on Brutus. The separate enclosure for the boar presents its own challenges. Snow has drifted against one wall, allowing Brutus a potential escape route if he chooses to climb the drift. Fortunately, the cold seems to have dampened his usual aggressive tendencies, and he merely watches with suspicious eyes as you clear snow from his pen. He looks thin, William observes. You nod, assessing the boar critically. The cold burns more energy. We'll need to increase his feed if this weather continues. This is the constant calculation of Tudor farming, balancing the needs of the animals against your limited resources. Winter is always the most challenging time, when food stores dwindle but needs increase due to the cold. With the immediate crisis of the pigs addressed, you turn to the next task, clearing a path to the village. This is essential not just for supplies, but for community support. Tudor villages function through mutual aid, especially in emergencies like severe weather. We should see if the cooks need help, too, you tell William as you begin the long process of digging toward the village path. Their farm is more exposed than ours. William nods, understanding the unspoken rule of rural Tudor life: you help your neighbors because someday you'll need their help in return. The sun is high overhead, marking midday, when you hear voices calling from the direction of the village. You pause in your digging, leaning on the wooden shovel as you peer through the bright glare. 3 figures are making their way along the partially cleared village path, breaking through drifts where necessary. As they get closer, you recognize Henry Cook, his teenage son John, and another neighbor, Robert Fisher. Fletcher, Henry calls, raising a hand in greeting. You've survived, then. So far, you call back, grinning despite your exhaustion. We were just digging our way to check on you. The men reach you, their faces red from cold and exertion, breath steaming in the winter air. Like you, they're dressed in whatever warm layers they possess, with cloth wrapped around their faces against the cold. The village is organizing a snow brigade, Robert Fisher explains, after greetings are exchanged. Checking on outlying farms, helping clear paths, sharing resources. This type of spontaneous community organization is typical in Tudor England, where survival often depends on mutual support. There's no official emergency service, no government aid, just neighbors helping neighbors through crisis. How bad is it, you ask, gesturing toward the village. Worst snow in 10 years by most reckonings, Henry answers. 2 cottages near the brook had their roofs cave in from the weight. No one hurt, thank God. You cross yourself automatically at the mention of Providence, a gesture repeated by the others. Tudor religious observance is reflexive, woven into everyday speech and reaction. And the monastery, you ask, your thoughts turning to the quarter rent and the unsettling rumors of dissolution. The brothers are out helping too, Robert says. Abbots opened the monastery storehouse for those in need, and the steward sent word, no rent collections until the roads clear properly. This news brings visible relief to your face. The monastery's charity during crisis reinforces your hope that it might be spared the king's dissolution campaign. A benevolent landlord is worth preserving from a tenant's perspective. We're checking farms to the north, Henry explains. Fisher's group is handling the east. Can you manage here, or do you need hands? You consider your situation. The pigs are fed, if not comfortable, and your family is safe and warm in the cottage. Others may be in more dire circumstances. We're managing, you assure them, but we'll join the effort once we've finished clearing our own paths. Eleanor's got a pot of pottage that could feed a few hungry diggers. The men nod appreciatively at the mention of hot food. Tudor hospitality centers on sharing whatever you have, especially in times of hardship. We'll spread the word, Fisher promises. God keep you, Fletcher. And you respond, the traditional parting. As the men continue on their way, checking the next outlying farm, you turn to William with renewed energy. Let's finish this path and get back to the cottage. Your mother will want to know the news. The work continues through the afternoon, your progress slowed by increasing fatigue. Tudor physical endurance is remarkable by modern standards. A lifetime of manual labor builds strength and stamina. But even the hardiest farmer has limits. By the time you and William stagger back to the cottage, the sun is already low in the western sky. Winter days are short, and darkness comes early. Eleanor meets you at the door, her expression shifting from worry to relief. Thank God, she says, helping you remove your snow-crusted outer layers. I was about to send Agnes looking for you. We met the village snow brigade, you explain, moving gratefully toward the fire. Worst storm in 10 years, they're saying. The cottage is warm and filled with savory smells. Eleanor has been busy during your absence, cooking and organizing. Agnes has continued spinning wool, a substantial ball of thread now wound on her spindle. Even little Mary has been productive, helping to sort dried beans from last autumn's harvest, a task suited to small fingers. The monastery has opened its storehouse, you tell Eleanor as you warm your hands by the fire, and the steward's delayed rent collection until the road's clear. She nods, understanding the significance of both pieces of information. A small blessing from a great hardship, she comments, which sums up much of Tudor pragmatism toward misfortune. How are the pigs? She asks, ladling hot pottage into bowls for you and William. Hungry but healthy, you report between grateful spoonfuls. Even the little one that got separated in the storm. Tudor pigs are tough beasts, Eleanor says with a small smile, like Tudor farmers. The afternoon fades toward evening, and your thoughts turn to the coming night. Another hard freeze is likely with clear skies after the storm. The animals are fed for now, but tomorrow will bring the same challenges: clearing more snow, ensuring water sources don't freeze, maintaining access to essential areas of the farm. We should join the village effort tomorrow, you tell Eleanor as the family gathers by the fire. Fisher said they need all hands. She nods in agreement. Tudor community obligation is taken seriously. You contribute when others are in need, knowing they would do the same for you. Agnes can come with us, you continue. She's old enough to help. William can stay and tend the pigs. At 12, Agnes is indeed considered old enough for community work. Childhood in Tudor England is brief, with adult responsibilities beginning early, especially for girls, who will likely be married by 16 or 17. I can manage the pigs, William agrees, proud to be trusted with this responsibility. The evening settles into its usual routine, modified by the circumstances. There's no spinning tonight. Eleanor's hands are too chapped from cold and wet work. Instead, she mends a torn shirt while you work on a small carving project, a new handle for a kitchen knife that broke last week. The children are more subdued than usual, the physical demands of the day having drained their energy. Even Mary is content to sit quietly, playing with her rag doll rather than demanding stories or attention. As darkness falls completely, Eleanor prepares a simple supper, more pottage, reheated from midday, with the last of yesterday's bread. Tudor meals are repetitive by modern standards, especially in winter, when fresh ingredients are scarce. Will the snow melt soon? Agnes asks as the family eats. You consider the question, drawing on years of observation and weather lore. Not immediately, too cold for fast melting. But in a few days, if the sun stays strong, we'll see the high ground clear first. This kind of practical knowledge, how weather patterns work, how the land responds to conditions, is essential to Tudor farming success. There are no meteorological forecasts, just experience and observation passed through generations. The monastery road will clear first, you add. It's on high ground, and they'll have many hands working on it. The monastery road is important for the entire community. It connects to the main highways that lead to market towns, where goods can be traded. Even in normal times, the monastery maintains this road better than the smaller village paths. After supper, the family prepares for bed with the usual routine. The fire is banked for the night, prayers are said, and everyone settles onto their straw mattresses. The physical exertion of snow clearing ensures that sleep comes quickly to most. But you find yourself lying awake, staring at the dark ceiling, mind turning over problems and possibilities. The delayed rent is helpful but temporary. The rumors of monastery dissolution remain troubling. The condition of your pigs after this unexpected weather crisis will need careful monitoring. Eleanor stirs beside you, sensing your wakefulness. What troubles you? She whispers. Nothing new, you assure her. Just the usual worries, made louder by the quiet. She understands. Tudor life is precarious at the best of times. A snowstorm, a pig disease, a poor harvest, any of these could tip a family from subsistence to starvation. Add the uncertainty of changing religious and political landscapes, and sleep becomes elusive despite physical exhaustion. We've weathered worse, she reminds you, her hand finding yours in the darkness. And it's true. In your nearly 40 years, you've survived crop failures, livestock diseases, and political upheavals that threaten to upend rural life. The Tudor era is one of extraordinary change, but farming continues, adapting as it must to new realities. Sleep, Eleanor murmurs. Tomorrow needs your strength. You close your eyes, consciously relaxing each part of your body, as your father taught you long ago. The technique usually works, and tonight is no exception. Gradually, the worries recede, replaced by the simple awareness of your breathing, the distant howl of a fox, the occasional pop from the banked fire. The last thought before sleep claims you is a simple observation: the pigs survived, the family is safe, and tomorrow you'll help neighbors who would help you in.